Have you ever wondered about the true meaning behind the mysterious creatures mentioned in the Bible? Leviathan, Behemoth. These powerful beings seem to challenge our understanding. Are they merely myths, or is there a deeper symbolism that can teach us something about our faith and the history of the world? Today, we will explore these creatures and discover how they were viewed in their historical context and what they represent for us today. Prepare to dive into a new perspective on sacred texts, transforming what was once obscure into something fascinating and relevant. If you have ever questioned the mysteries of the Bible and want to understand how these beings fit into the divine plan, stay with me until the end, because what you will discover may transform the way you perceive these stories. Shall we begin? The Bible was written in a historical context rich with cultural and social influences that shaped its narratives. The creatures mentioned in the scriptures reflect the beliefs and myths of the time that were common among ancient civilizations. Understanding these influences helps us interpret the meanings behind sacred texts more effectively. Leviathan and Behemoth are creatures that appear in ancient texts not only in the Bible, but also in other cultures of the Middle East. These beings were seen as representations of natural forces or entities, symbolizing chaos and divine power. By understanding these references, we can perceive the author's intentions in mentioning these creatures, highlighting God's greatness in the face of the untamable forces of nature. In the biblical context, Leviathan and Behemoth are described as symbols of God's power over chaos. These creatures were not merely frightening monsters. They also represented how God has control over everything, even the most uncontrollable forces. This helped reinforce the faith of the ancient Israelites, demonstrating that God's power was above all things, including the fears that inhabited their imaginations. The idea of mythological creatures was common among the civilizations surrounding the ancient Hebrews, such as the Babylonians and Egyptians. Many of these peoples believed in monsters that inhabited the sea or the land, and these beliefs influenced how Leviathan and Behemoth were presented in the scriptures. Thus, these creatures served as a means of communicating spiritual truths using a language that was understandable to the people of that time. Understanding the historical context is fundamental to grasping the true purpose of these passages. Leviathan and Behemoth were not merely beings created to instill fear. They were symbolic elements that helped communicate divine greatness and power. In this chapter, we explore how historical and cultural context helps us decipher the meaning of these beings and how it reinforced the faith of the ancients. Leviathan is one of the most enigmatic creatures mentioned in the Bible. Described as a colossal sea monster, Leviathan symbolizes chaos and the untamed power of nature. In books like Job and Psalms, we see a depiction of a being that is both feared and admired. By analyzing its characteristics, we realize that Leviathan represents forces that mankind can never fully control, emphasizing God's sovereignty over all creation. On the other hand, Behemoth is described as a terrestrial creature, strong and imposing. The image of Behemoth highlights the grandeur of God's creations, showcasing a power that humanity cannot contain. In Job 40, Behemoth is portrayed as an example of God's creation, which, despite its immense strength, remains under his control. This reinforces the message that, no matter how powerful a creature may be, it never surpasses the power of the Creator. In addition to Leviathan and Behemoth, there are mentions of other creatures that, although less known, carry significant symbolic meaning. The Ziz, a winged creature that guards the heavens, is another example of how the Bible uses these beings to convey ideas about the order of the universe and divine protection. Like Leviathan and Behemoth, the Ziz illustrates how divine power encompasses all aspects of creation. These creatures are more than mere legends. They serve to illustrate the relationship between God, nature, and humanity. Leviathan, Behemoth, and Ziz are metaphors representing the limits of human understanding and the vastness of God's power. Through these beings, the Bible challenges us to recognize that, even with all our knowledge, there are things beyond our comprehension, and this should inspire humility and reverence. The analysis of these creatures' characteristics leads us to a deeper reflection on how we understand divine power and presence. They are not just monsters, but symbols of specific aspects of God's creation. uncontrollable forces, the grandeur of the earth, and the mysteries of the heavens. By understanding these representations, we can connect more meaningfully with biblical teachings, perceiving the profound intent behind these descriptions. Today, many scholars and theologians seek to interpret Leviathan, Behemoth, and other biblical creatures in a way that resonates with modern audiences. These beings are no longer viewed merely as literal monsters, but as profound symbols that reflect human and divine issues. Contemporary interpretation attempts to connect these beings to our current world, demonstrating how the lessons behind these descriptions remain relevant. Some see Leviathan as a symbol of the uncontrollable forces of nature that humanity strives to dominate but will never fully control. This creature represents the challenges and uncertainties we face in our lives and how we must trust in divine power to navigate them. The Leviathan reminds us that there are things beyond our control and that we need to have faith to confront the unknown. On the other hand, the Behemoth is often associated with the strength of creation and the robustness of terrestrial life. In a constantly changing world, the Behemoth symbolizes the stability that God brings to his creations, even in the face of so many uncertainties. For many, it serves as a reminder that despite our efforts and struggles, there is a greater force sustaining everything, ensuring that order is maintained. The Ziz, less known, is seen by some as a representation of the ideal of divine protection. In times of fear and anxiety, the Ziz becomes a symbol of hope, indicating that there is a higher force watching over and caring for the skies and, by extension, for all of us. This interpretation helps people find comfort in knowing that divine protection is always present, even when we cannot see it. By connecting these creatures to our modern context, we can better understand how biblical messages are timeless. The Leviathan, Behemoth, and Ziz are not merely creatures of the past, but symbols that still resonate with us today, inspiring us to seek wisdom, humility, and trust in God. Understanding their contemporary interpretations helps us see that sacred texts, even those written millennia ago, can still speak directly to the challenges and doubts of our current lives. The biblical creatures Leviathan, Behemoth, and Ziz carry profound lessons that remain relevant to us today. In a world where we confront forces that seem beyond our control, these creatures remind us of the importance of trusting in God and recognizing divine power. They symbolize the daily battles we face and the certainty that there is a greater purpose in everything that happens. The Leviathan, with all its ferocity and power, is a metaphor for the challenges that frighten us. However, the Bible teaches us that God is in control, even of the most fearsome forces. This perspective encourages us not to succumb to fear, but to find strength in faith and divine protection, facing the unknown with confidence. The Behemoth brings to mind the grandeur of God's creation and his sovereignty over all that exists. We live in a time where we seek stability and meaning, and this creature reminds us that even amid the greatest uncertainties, we can find a firm foundation in God. This message invites us to resilience and confidence in God's constant presence. The Ziz, who guards the heavens, offers us a vision of hope and protection. In today's world where anxiety and fear are so prevalent, remembering that there is a greater force caring for us can bring immense comfort. The Ziz symbolizes that we are not alone. There is a guardian watching over us, ensuring order even in times of chaos. By understanding the symbolism of these creatures, we gain a new perspective on biblical texts and our own spiritual journey. They challenge us to be humble, recognize our limits, and place our trust in God. The lessons these beings impart remain timeless, providing hope, strength, and wisdom to face the challenges of modern life. Throughout this video, we explore the biblical creatures Leviathan, Behemoth, and Ziz, seeking to understand not only their descriptions, but also the profound symbolic meanings they carry. These beings remind us of divine power and how God maintains control over all the forces of creation, even the most fearsome and mysterious. They challenge us to see beyond the literal and uncover the spiritual messages that still resonate with us today. Leviathan represents chaos and challenges that are greater than our ability to control, while Behemoth illustrates the grandeur and strength of divine creation. Ziz, on the other hand, symbolizes divine protection and care that surrounds us. Each of these beings offers a different way to perceive and understand the relationship between God, the natural world, and ourselves. Through this study, we learn that biblical creatures are much more than myths or monsters. They are symbols that connect us directly to the power of God, demonstrating how, from ancient times to today, God remains sovereign and worthy of our trust. The symbolism of these creatures invites us to live with faith and humility, acknowledging our limits and trusting in the divine plan. If this video has given you a new perspective on biblical stories, I invite you to subscribe to the channel and share this content with others who are also interested in exploring the mysteries and teachings of the Bible. Leave your comment with your own interpretations or questions about these creatures. I want to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to like the video and activate the notification bell to receive more content that explores the Bible in a deep and relevant way for the modern world. Together, we can continue this journey of discovery and learning, transforming what was once obscure into something that inspires our faith and strengthens our spirit. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.